Humans have done a lot of things to wildlife, and perhaps it's time they started doing some things for wildlife.
It's probably the most important thing you can do is to set aside the planet for the planet.
It's not just about human families, it's about the animal families that live on that land for generation after generation.
I think that wildlife is part of human life. We're more human because they're there. There is an assumption that because you love animals, or you're trying to save them in one way or another, that's that. You're on the side of the angels, and that is in and of itself good enough. And it's not. You can't afford to be sentimental about animals. They need much better protection than that.
Land trust is used all over the country from various little organizations, the Montana Land Trust, the Idaho Land Trust, but the Wildlife Land Trust, that's the key to it.
The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, as is its mission, the goal of protecting, preserving, and enhancing habitat for the benefit of wildlife and providing sanctuary to wildlife in a number of settings, both large and small. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust was born in 1993 as a separate corporation, yet a controlled affiliate of the Humane Society of the United States.
There were no organizations that would take land and protect it, as well as protecting the animals. So it was really quite unique for us to think that we could create an organization that would receive land and guarantee the donor that they're also protecting the creatures that are alive on that land.
The land trust component was a key thing missing from the Humane Society of the United States for decades. Bringing that in, the habitat component, kind of made us full circle. It gave us the opportunity to say we are now protecting people, animals, and habitats.
Wildlife Land Trust has a number of approaches to preserving, protecting habitat, and also to confronting cruelty against wildlife. We have some of the traditional land trust tools, which would be ownership of property in fee simple, where the donor gives us the title of the property. We also work with conservation easements, varying types of conservation easements, with different degrees of protection there, but always geared toward the interests of wildlife. Size does not necessarily matter in the conservation of a property. Sometimes very small properties have very high conservation values. Sometimes very large properties have relatively low conservation values. We evaluate all of them. We have a very exciting parcel of land in Oregon that happens to be over 2,000 acres and offers broad opportunities for more than 400 species. At the same time, we have an exciting one we're working on that's only 2.5 acres. But the 2.5 acres presents also some critical access to water and control of a migratory corridor.
History has shown us some great political visionaries that have set aside huge tracts of public land. But in order for animals, especially animals that travel, bears, wolverines, to get from public land to public land, it's critical that private land have some of those same protections. There has to be those travel corridors.
Every animal needs much more range than we give them credit for, if not in its daily movements, in its seasonal movements, if not in its seasonal movements for genetic contact with other populations.
The tools that the federal government has are limited, and that only through partnerships are we going to impact a whole landscape.
So the role of the private donor is absolutely critical one to conservation and to wildlife protection. We have a number of success stories. One of the most dramatic is right here in the Centennial Valley in southwestern Montana. The Centennial Valley is a valley that's approximately 50 miles long, 15 miles wide, about 385,000 acres. But like all valleys, it has a head, and it has a point of beginning. It's home for, a haven to, and a corridor for multiple species, both predator and prey. It's extremely important land, and it's property owned by Tony and Donna Dimitriadis, who transferred to us a conservation easement with the express interest of us helping to provide perpetual sanctuary for the wildlife on that property. Tony and Donna Dimitriadis are extremely passionate about their land, and that sense of love and honor of the land and of place comes the first time you meet them and talk to them.
It was love at first sight. Ask somebody what it's like to fall in love and they can't give you a definition for a person, and it's exactly the same with the land. You can't describe it, but you know it when it's real. And that's what happened.
The land gives you, of course, a feeling of community with something which is irreplaceable, unique, beautiful, full of unspoiled values. All these things, give you an everyday, every hour, every minute joy. So we want to do something for the property that gives us that feeling. When we first bought the property, we had no thoughts about conservation easement. We knew we wanted to preserve the land forever, but we did not know what the mechanism was, you see. And we met John Taft in the early 80s, and he indicated that he would like us to sign a conservation easement with him, which we did, and eventually the conservation easement was transferred to the Wildlife Land Trust, who have it now. And what this means is that they are acting essentially as an agent for the land, and we are the so-called owners, but we're not really owners. Nobody's an owner of land. You're a trustee. We feel like we're trustees of a beautiful piece of work, and therefore we have to protect it for generations to come.
If we weren't protecting properties like Tony's and Donna's, it could undermine a lot of what's going on in the entire valley. The connectivity for large mammals, grizzlies, wolverines, wolves, that the Centennial Valley and the Centennial Mountains can provide for animals wanting to move between the Yellowstone ecosystem and the Selway Bitterroot is enhanced greatly by the kind of work that was accomplished with Tony and Donna's property. And it's fantastic, and we applaud them for what they've done.
The idea of the easement is that we will not do anything on the property which detracts from its aesthetic and ecological values forever. And people who buy the property from us in the future, if they were to do so, or our children, or whoever inherits the property, all these folks will not be able to do anything to the land that's contrary to what the easement dictates.
Tony and Donna Dimitriadis are unusual in that they not only felt a passion for the land, but they felt a passion for leaving a legacy. More, they were able to convey that to their sons, who enthusiastically supported them in their efforts to protect the land in perpetuity, and recognized that not everything in life is monetary, and here is an opportunity to protect something forever.
It just gives you a very, very, very good feeling, knowing that it remains the same, not just for the present, but in perpetuity, which is almost beyond your thinking, 100 years, 200 years.
Land is not made anymore, so you'd better take care of it with the little that still is around. That's all there is to it.
There's a need for entities like the Wildlife Land Trust that are solution-oriented, that are really about bringing people together and bring those people together to protect special places, special species.
It's a personal organization. It's not some vast, huge thing. They can pick up the phone and call up the president of it any time and express their concerns or their desires or whatever it can be. It's personal, and yet it's huge in its substantiality.
With the full force and backing of the Humane Society of the United States, it gives great comfort to our donors that this is not a small effort, a small initiative. The Humane Society of the United States, with 12 million constituents and a very, very substantial budget and robust resources, stands behind the work of its affiliate, the Wildlife Land Trust.
The range of commitments that the Wildlife Land Trust will make to me as a landowner includes no hunting, no trapping, and as well as all the other commitments that I want, which is no tree cutting, no subdivision, and so forth and so on. So they added something that, frankly, other land trusts didn't add. So when you put that together and you're a landowner that really cares about his land, you're actually studying the land trust to see whether you want to commit to them, just like they're studying whether they want to commit to you. In my case, these guys graded that on top, so that's why I chose them.
We think that you can explore the values that we share and see if they're compatible with yours. And if they are, we believe that we are a credible source and an organization that has enthusiasm, energy, and capacity to provide the perpetual care. It's probably very important to you as a donor.
With the enormous opportunities we have and the enormous challenges attendant to those opportunities, we need a lot of help to complete this job. There are opportunities here for individuals to participate with us in a financial way, in a personal time commitment, or through reaching into your Rolodex and connecting us with others.